Finally time to paint Kelly's office. It's gonna be this amazing blue-green sea, can I call it sea foam?
Well, it is called ocean silk, so I think sea foam is appropriate.
This is the room upstairs we had the least work to do. And so we're starting here with the paint. Kelly's doing the first little bit. And then depending on what she wants to do, she might leave the rest to me and go and finish and paint downstairs. But she seems like she's enjoying herself a little bit too much, so.
Pretty.
So today is insert week here. And we have the plumber here today, putting in the new heating and hot water system. Tankless Well-McLean 155C if you're so inclined to look it up. And I am working on repairing this drywall. As you may remember, this was the piece of drywall that we stupidly tore the back off, thinking it was the back of the wallpaper. And this is the second coat of spackle that I've put on to fill in all the divots I dug into it. I still probably have 1 or 2 coats to go until it's going to be ready to paint. I'm about to do that. All the brown at the top is the remaining paper that I have to level with the white, which is the brown, which is the underlying drywall. And then all the white on top is the spackle I've used to cover up the hundreds of divots I've dug into the wall. And I'm serious, hundreds. Like, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, but each one of these little things is a divot. Kelly, meanwhile, has been busy taking DAP and filling in the many cracks in the plaster. So Kelly, what's the process? Enlighten us.
Well, I started by putting it directly on the wall and pushing it in with my finger, but so much comes out of the gun that it's just too much, and it gets all over your hands and you get it everywhere. So then I started putting it on the wall and scraping up, which works really well. And then you have a bunch left on your scraper and you just kind of push it into the cracks and then smooth it out. And that works really well. And then you don't have to carry the caulk gun around, which is cumbersome. So that's what I'm doing.
Seems to be working pretty well.
Yep.
Right. Let's show you what it looks like before you put the DAP in the cracks. So these cracks right here, those are in every room just about. At least this room and the master bedroom. This is my office, the future site of my office. It's not much than a room at the moment. But essentially what she's saying is she takes the caulk and then just runs it right in the crack and it fills it up. Now there's certain areas we're not going to be able to do that. For example, right here, I don't know if you can see, but this area is kind of mushy. So we're going to try another technique that we'll try to film on how to stabilize plaster once it's kind of gotten to that point. So in our quest to fix our awful plaster walls on the second floor, we've tried a whole bunch of different solutions in how to fill cracks, holes, dents, dings, everything. And because we have a mix of drywall, well, at least one drywall wall, and plaster up here, we bought a bunch of different products, well, 3 products, to try to fix it. So I thought, for the benefit of everyone who hasn't had to do this before, I'd go over what the 3 products are that we use to fix the walls and the varying results. So the first weapon in our arsenal is called DAP. It comes in a tube like this, and what it's good for is filling in these giant cracks in the plaster. So with plaster, 2 things can happen. You can have cracks like this form when a house settles, and you can have the plaster actually separate from the lath. So in our case, it's actually not separating, it's just a crack. See, it's solid. So as a house shifts and ages, that crack is going to adjust. So the DAP is silicone and will adjust as the house moves, which is it's nice. It prevents the paint from cracking. It gives the wall a little bit of give so that those points can flex. They're not solid. So that works pretty well. You put it on as Kelly showed, and then you just scrape it off and you push it into the crack, and hey, you know what? I'm pretty satisfied with how well it's worked so far. So that's DAP. Next, you have joint compound, also made by DAP, but comes in a bucket. Smells amazing. I don't know if anyone else likes to smell this stuff, but it's kind of like the consistency of frosting. That's the closest thing I could think of. And with that, that's really good for fixing drywall. It's the primary purpose. So this is that piece of drywall that we all tore up, and it is finally, I think we're getting close to being ready to paint this. I think maybe one more coat, a couple more spots that are still have some voids, and we should be good to go. But it works very well, and when you sand it off, it leaves a remarkably smooth kind of finish, although kind of dusty. And then we have patching plaster, also made by DAP. This stuff is garbage. It's hot garbage. Everything that's great about joint compound and how it can correct practically any mistake you make on a wall in terms of denting it or dinging it or chipping it or whatever, plaster patch is the absolute opposite. It shrinks when it dries, so if you put it in a hole, it automatically, once it dries, is smaller than the hole, which is terrible. Then, on top of that, it does not sand easily like joint compound. You have to sand it and sand it and sand it to get it smooth. And then as you're sanding it, it has no structural component. It doesn't stick to the plaster you're adhesing it to, so it just crumbles and falls out. So it's complete garbage. So what I ended up doing is on the spots where I really needed a lot of it, so I covered this whole area in plaster patch because there was a huge hole there. I come back the next day, it's got a bigger crack than when I left it, and it's just a jagged mess. So I go back, I sand it down, I go over it with joint compound. It's practically smooth. I mean, it's still rough, it's not smooth, I gotta sand it, but it is so much smoother than it was, and it actually holds. It filled in, it's solid. I'm gonna be able to paint that now. Couldn't do that with a plastic patch. Here's another one. Did plaster the first time, huge kind of gouge in the wall where the plaster was missing. Did it first with the patching stuff, didn't work at all. It's amazing to me that they even sell this stuff. I mean, I'm no pro. Maybe there's a use that I'm not seeing with this stuff, but so far, everything I have done with with plaster, with patching plaster, has been much easier to do with joint compound and more effective as the end result. I'll show you two more examples. So this right here was a gouge I made when we were doing the wallpaper. It was a hole about this big. You know, it's a big spot, and it was totally missing because I really boogered it up. You know, when I put the plaster in it, it shrunk down smaller. It popped right out like a little token. It was ridiculous. I put the joint compound in there, buddy, holds right in there. You know, the one thing that the patching plaster might be good for is making one of those little tokens just so you can fill it. But honestly, let me take you to see this other one. So this is one where I took that approach. And it didn't work, so I just replaced the whole token I made with a plaster patch. I just removed it completely and replaced it with joint compound, and it's smooth as silk. You can't even tell it's there. Here's another example. It cracks. It's just not good. It's not good stuff. So at the end of the day, the lesson is DAP, the Alex caulk gun stuff, great, awesome for filling cracks, works really well. Joint compound for filling holes and patching dings and dents in the wall. Patching plaster, just straight into the garbage can. Don't even bother. It's practically useless. If you know of some reason that it's actually a good product, I would love to hear it, because I've been using it for the past 48 hours now. It's been nothing but a headache compared to joint compound, which is literally like the greatest thing ever. It makes life so much easier. So anyway,